Well, hello, and welcome to the Far From Normal radio show. I'm your host, Jay Moss, and I have got my co-host here, Mr. Bud Veno. Bud, how are you doing this evening? Looks like you're still on mute there, Bud, but I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. There you go.
There you go. See, what happened is, I think, Jay, first of all, is you unmuted me at the same time as I unmuted myself, and I think we got crossed there. February 27, 2018, another beautiful night, Jay. Mm-hmm. Tuesday, here we go again. I believe that was an old 80s Whitesnake song, if I'm not mistaken. Unfortunately, we don't have Jessie Weiner on with us tonight, but we do have Mr. Pete, the real deal. McNeil. Pete, what's going on, brother?
Hey, nothing, man. Just happy to be here, good spirits, and just ready to rock out tonight, man.
Awesome. First of all, guys, before we get rolling, my wife dug in. First of all, I'll give a shout out to a lot of people out there, but I won't. My wife and I dug through some old boxes and found some really cool things. I'll give you some hints off the air. This was inside one of the boxes I had folded up. It's from February 11th, 1990, over 28 years ago. And for the hurting and fighting parents out there that think the impossible can't be done, check this out, guys. Tyson knocked out. That's the whole front page. And look, it's pretty good condition. This is the actual original I've had folded.
Wow.
And he shocked the world, James Buster Douglas. Give a shout out to our man, Jim Crawford, the bomb dropper out there, because Buster Douglas, if my memory serves me, it was from Columbus, Ohio. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. So there you go, folks. A little motivation. It can be done. The impossible can be done. And I still love Iron Mike. It broke my heart when he lost, but an insightful man, a deep man, and still love the man. So here we go again. Let's go. Awesome,
absolutely.
Jay.
We have an amazing guest for you this evening, and I cannot say enough about what he has done with his documentary Divorce Corp. And I know that he's done the Family Court Report as well. Giving us insightful information that's going on within the family court system. I know a lot of you are out there that are in the movement, can get some empowerment and some good education from this man, and he's just an amazing guy. Mr. Joe Sorge, how are you doing, Joe?
Thank you, Jay. I'm doing very well. I appreciate it.
Well, I wanted to ask you, first off, I want to give Bud the opportunity and myself, thank you very much for coming on from the entire movement.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joe, and thank you, Jay, for that courtesy. I was able to watch, Jay sent me some links to some of the YouTube links to some of it, and it looks extraordinary. I'm looking forward to digging into it more, and we're honored to have you on. This is great for us and for everybody out there. Thank you.
Yep. And I wanted to start off by asking probably the biggest major question that you probably could get. How is it that you came across divorce as an issue for a documentary of all things? And how did you get into that whole spread of the movement or the divorce court side of things? And what are some of the aspects that you learned that just absolutely stunned you?
I got into it involuntarily. Yeah, no, I went through a divorce, and I was looking for a subject to make a film about, and I couldn't believe what was happening to my life. And when I went into family court and sat there for hours watching other people's cases go, I realized that the system was dysfunctional. And, you grow up as an American, a patriot, and you think our country is great in every way. And then you see something so dysfunctional as the family courts, and you say, I have to do something about it. And so that's what motivated me to try to get the message out there. I saw people just being interrogated, accused of things that were just awful, put in situations where they couldn't afford what was demanded of them. And when I saw what I would call collusion between the family court lawyers and the judges, the kind of backslapping and one hand washing the other, I just said, this is not the America that I want to be part of. We need to change. We need to bring this out so that the public can see what's going on and try to reform the system.
Exactly. And now, is there an actual major organization that was behind Divorce Corp, or a major filmmaking process that had backing to it, or is this something that you put together on your own, or other people kind of help with?
Well, I had done some work in LA with the company Candor Entertainment. And so, we've done some TV shows, and we have some shows still on the air. But Divorce Corp was sort of my pet project. And, it was something that was very dear to me. When I brought it to my colleagues at Candor, though, they said, "Oh my God, you really found a topic that is not widely understood, and the types of dysfunctionality that you've come across, they verified it. They did independent research. They hired an independent researcher to confirm what I was saying. And they said, okay, we're behind you 100%. So I did get a lot of help from Candor Entertainment.
Right. So this really, as a documentary filmmaker, a lot of documentary filmmakers, and what they do is they pick a particular topic, much like a journalist would do writing a newspaper. So this happened to be obviously near and dear to your heart, and some of the experiences that you had digging in deeper to this, that things that you didn't know anything about through your own case, obviously. What are some of the things that just made you go, wow, I never saw that?
Well, so in my particular case, and I'm not going to talk about my case in any kind of detail, because that's not what it's all about.
Right.
But in my particular case, my ex had done very well in the divorce. So money should not have been an issue. And yet I was sued for additional child support right after I sold my company, which was a biotechnology company. I wasn't always in the filmmaking business. And I'm very fortunate. I came into a nice amount of money. But again, as I said, my ex was well set 5 years earlier. And we had been sharing the custody of our minor child 50-50 for 5 years with no significant incidents. And then all of a sudden, very shortly after I sold my company, suddenly I'm a bad father and my ex needed 100% custody. So I said to the judge, because I was foolish enough to represent myself in the beginning, because I thought this was just a nuisance case. I didn't realize how much corruption was in the system and how I was up against a lawyer on the other side who knew the judge. I thought things were honest and fair. So I said to the judge, I said, Your Honor, we shouldn't be here. We're wasting the court's time. We're wasting the public's money. A, my ex doesn't need more money. B, our child doesn't need more money. If anything, he's exposed to too much money. And he's a great kid. I'm just saying, too much money can spoil someone and they don't realize what life's all about. And I said, really, I think you just want to throw this case out because there's no basis for it. And he looked at me and he said something very perplexing. He said something like, well, this is a very important case. Child support is very important to the state of California. It's sort of a different kind of money. And so we have to take it very seriously. So I'm afraid we're not going to be able to dismiss this case, and we're just going to have to move forward with it. And it went on for 2.5 years with not a lot of controversy or complexity. There was no accusations of abuse. The worst I was a workaholic. So, there wasn't anything like that. It was all about money. And what I realized as I was making the movie, not only was my ex motivated to get more money, not only was her lawyer motivated to get more money, but the state of California was motivated to collect more child support because they got a piece of it. They got bonus money from the feds for every dollar of child support they collected. So I realized I was just a pansy there who, everybody was going to pick my pockets.
Absolutely. And so what you're speaking about, obviously, since you've done some research and investigation on this, is the Title IV benefits, Title IV-D benefits from the Social Security Act. And we've done further research on this. I don't know if you have as well. There's a case out there called Blessings versus Freestone, in which the Title IV-D benefits, we've noticed, have actually been going back per this case and paying the Title IV-A debt, which is the welfare system. It's quite weird how that all takes place, and then the actual divorce courts themselves are getting the monetary incentive also that's coming down from the state, that's paying these judges' salaries and the attorney, the bar association. So one hand seems to be washing the other. Joe, tell us a little bit about other countries, because I know that you've done an investigation and homework on other countries that have more along the lines of a shared parenting plan, because we have, I believe, 35, and I'll give a little plug for Mr. Mark Ludwig out there, Americans for Equal Shared Parenting, 35 bills for shared parenting coming out this year. Could be more that are suitable to follow. Some of them are coming rather quick, such as Iowa, I believe, which Pete will talk about during the break here, that are very quick on what they're doing, that they're going to be bringing it to the floor sometime this week. Alabama is going to be bringing it to the Senate floor sometime this week, possibly, for a vote on equal shared parenting. So tell us a little bit about those other countries. I believe it was Switzerland and Scandinavia.
Yeah. So we went to to Iceland, to Sweden, and to Denmark to see how they handle these things, because the Nordic countries are fairly wealthy countries. They're organized, they're clean, they're relatively safe. That's changing a little bit with some of the recent events due to immigration, but they're relatively safe. The rule of law is strong. The citizens are generally happy. So we heard that divorce and child custody were handled very differently there. And my co-director and I were shocked when we got there. We got to Iceland and we renamed it Planet Sanity because they don't go to court to get divorced. They simply file a document. And if you have no children, you file a document, and then very shortly after that, you're divorced. Done.
Wow.
If you have children, there's a 6-month waiting period. And if you go through that 6-month waiting period and you haven't changed your mind, you're divorced. How do they handle the money? It's similar to the concepts that we have, that money you brought into the marriage stays with you if you didn't commingle it. And if you did enter into partnerships or commingle the money or buy a house together, well, then the appreciation on that, if there is any appreciation, would be shared amongst the couple. But it's handled usually very privately with an accountant who's been doing the family's taxes and knows the numbers. I mean, people are just more honorable about these things. And when they cannot agree, they go down to the town hall, and there's an administrator there who helps them fill out the forms and work it out. It's not a court system. They do not go to court for divorce. It's extremely rare. And when it comes to shared parenting, it's a very interesting situation. So Sweden is the most progressive country when it comes to shared parenting. And, I've interviewed some professors in Sweden who have done actual studies. And I believe you had one of my videos up somewhere on your site. And, the contact that I have there, her name is Malin Bergstrom, very, very wonderful person. And she's done some great work. And they looked at thousands of Swedish students who had either been in a 50-50 shared parenting situation, or a roughly 70-30 shared parenting situation, or a 100% 0% situation. And they studied a number of factors, including the child's perception of their own health, their happiness, their communication with their parents, their success in school, their mood swings, their emotions. And they found, for the most part, that, well, first of all, the children that were still in intact families with two parents scored the highest on these. But the 50-50 shared parenting situations, the children there scored almost as high as the children with intact families. They found that the families that were 70-30, the children scored significantly lower. And the worst performers were the ones who were 100% with one parent and 0% with another parent. And in one of their studies, they looked at 164,000 Swedish students. So we're not talking about some, bogus paper that didn't have good statistics. This is something that was extremely well done. And if you get to learn how the Swedes work, that their records are meticulous. And so I think there's a lot of credibility in this study. Iceland is much the same way. It's a much smaller country, but it's much the same way. There are a few small differences between how Sweden and Iceland handle these issues. But again, in both countries, you just fill out a form, you get divorced, and custody is the default is 50-50. And it's only if there's either one parent cannot be there 50% of the time or elects not to be there 50% of the time, do you get these deviations from 50-50. Denmark is different. And it's very interesting because I don't want to say anything not politically correct here, but to my eye, I can't tell the difference between Danish people and Swedish people. I can't hear a difference in the language. The countries look very much the same. The people are equally happy in both countries overall. The governments are well run, but I did learn about a difference in their family law system. And in Denmark, if in Denmark, they award a primary parent, whereas in Sweden, they don't as a default. So that's a difference there. And if you are awarded to be the primary parent, you can get government supplementation for your housing, for schooling, for transportation, et cetera. I've forgotten exactly how much it amounts to each month, but it's somewhere around $1,500, $2,000 a month that the primary parent gets that the other parent doesn't get. And it comes from the government. They also have a child support system, but child support is about $300 a month. And it never goes higher than, and again, I'm not remembering the numbers, but if you're incredibly wealthy, I think you pay $1,000 a month. Wow. It's not like the US where it's, they're taking 50, 60, 70% of your income. It's a much more reasonable amount of money. But in Denmark, not only do they get that small amount of child support, they also are entitled to supplementation from the government. And guess where they have conflict over shared custody? Denmark. In Denmark, 25% of the custody decisions are made in court. And but in Sweden, it's not. And in Sweden, you don't get extra money from the government, but in Denmark, you do. What does that tell you? It tells you that there are parents out there who are motivated by that extra money, and they're willing to drag their children through a horrible process and drag their ex-spouse through a horrible process in order to get that government supplementation. And you want to blame that parent for doing that. And in many ways, I think it's wrong for a parent to expose their child to that type of microscopic examination of their life and their relationships with their parents. But overall, I blame the governments because Sweden has proven you don't have to do that. And the United States, unfortunately, is a country where we assign a primary, what's called the custodial parent. And getting that custodial parent award in the United States doesn't entitle you to money from the government, but it entitles you to pick the pockets of the ex-spouse.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And I know that obviously there's a lot of people that are going through this right now. It's not a random thing, I don't think, because I'm seeing more and more that it's not just a man issue that we're dealing with anymore. It used to be that we were dealing with what they called the 10 years doctrine. And even before that, they were taking, women were losing custody because the men were farmers and they needed the farm hands as children to help out with the farm. And then they moved to this 10 years doctrine. And now they're so either some states are so far moving away from it that they're going back to being men dominant, or we have that same tender years doctrine to a little bit. So it depends on the state, but I will say this, that there is a complete bias of the court system. Why is it, Joe, that you think that since this is going on, why do you think that maybe the mainstream public doesn't buy into the fact of this bias that's going on in the courtrooms?
You know, I've thought about this a lot, and I don't have a good answer, but the answer I come up with is there's a variety of opinion out there. You know, there are people that believe in very classical male-female roles and relationships. There are people who are egalitarian and believe in equality between men and women. And then there are people who there are feminists, extreme feminists, who believe that women should be dominant and get certain rights that men should not get. And so, you know, the extremes oftentimes are the ones who dominate the news. And, you know, they're the ones that write the articles that are shocking, and the press covers it because it gives them more readership or viewership. And so I think a lot of what we hear are the extremes making a lot of noise. I think the middle of the road now is fairly equity oriented, egalitarian oriented, believes in equal rights between men and women. Mm-hmm. And I believe that they would support a default 50-50 shared parenting situation. The problem is, and I've seen this myself, is that the bar associations don't want that. Because if you have default 50-50 shared parenting, they don't make the kind of money that they make off of these child custody battles. And so they are still clinging to outdated research and outdated beliefs because it's a source of income for them. I think it's disgusting. I think it's horrible that anyone would get into a profession where they are willing to drag children through this horrible process just because, you know, they're going to make some extra money. These are disgusting people. And unfortunately, there's a lot of them. But I think that the average American would support shared parenting. And I think we're going to see more of that, especially as, you know, gender issues become more, more prevalent in our society. You know, we've seen huge changes in society's views on gender identity, on you know, treating people with respect and equally regardless of what gender they are, what they believe they are. And so I think, you know, in order to be consistent with that, they're going to have to recognize that parents should have an equal say, regardless of their male, female, or whatever they want to be. They should have an equal say. And if the parents can work it out in a way where they agree to a non-equal parenting arrangement, that's great. If they work it out that way, that's great. It may be that certain people don't have the time or the inclination or the skill to be a 50% parent. But if the parents really do want 50%, I think that should be where things start. And unfortunately, in our system, there's a monetary reward for fighting and getting greater than 50% custody of the children. And it's that carrot that is held out there. And the parent gets a little nibble of the carrot and the lawyers take the rest of it. And that is really screwing up our system. And I think if more, I would call them equity feminists, not the extremist feminists, not you know, the ones who want women to be dominant, but the ones who want equality. I think if they really knew about this and really knew how distorted the system is, that they would support change in the law. And I think we're going to see more and more of that. It's just a matter of increasing awareness and getting the message out there, which, as you know, is very
absolutely. And as you were speaking to, sir, Jay, you and I have talked about this on the air and with other people. The system very much encourages this. There's no money in the cure, right? The money's in the treatment. Same sort of thing. The longer you can drag it on, the more money that the courts, everybody else makes in it. And it is disgusting. There's no real other word for it. It's very predatory. And they encourage battle, because the longer it goes on, Jay, and the rest of the family, the more money that the system makes.
That's exactly right. And I saw someone, I'm just kind of lightly reading some of the comments as we go along. I did see someone say something about how they let their ex take care of the kids, or have 50-50, or do whatever, or have the custody of the children while they got an education. And I think that that's another thing that some of these other countries, like you mentioned, are doing, because I think that it allows some of these parents who were depending on two incomes at one time, now they're depending on one income each apiece. So now getting your education is absolutely crucial in order to provide for your child the right way. And I think that obviously the perpetual motion of the courts is to instill fear and litigation. Obviously, we've got different issues that all go on within the court system. And Joe, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it or not, but I know one of my mentors always seems to bring this up, because it is so crucial. Not only do some of the people deal with the Title IV benefits, and then how that bias system creates an even more biased system, because we're buying into this whole oppression through the courts, what we call kangaroo courts, who really don't have a whole lot of power, but they're being allowed to have much more power than they should per the Constitution. But then there's also the aspect of, once you fall behind, there's what's called the Bradley Amendment, which takes place, which is basically like a credit card on your past due amount, charging you compounded interest each and every month. I know that there are several people who lie on the side of either Democratic or Republican or any of those kind of boats, but I think this is right down the middle, don't you think? I think this is not a Republican issue. This is not a Democrat issue, is it? It's really just a corruption issue.
I think that's fairly accurate. You know, I did a YouTube video. I can't remember the name of it, but it was about the child support system and about the Title IV. And it's been a few years, so I don't remember all the details. But what did stand out is that Title IV, or the original child support enforcement idea, was to recover money from welfare recipients who then were able to pay back the welfare system. Because in certain cases, if one of the parents did not make child support payments, then the other parent could draw that money from welfare. And then the idea was to go after the parent who didn't pay and try to get welfare reimbursed. And when they were just looking at that, I believe the costs of that recovery were paid back by the money they recovered. So in other words, the government actually broke even or made a slight profit by doing that. But then the feds set up this incentive system that gave the states, the child support enforcement arms of the states, an incentive for collecting more and more money each year. So if you beat last year's collections, the feds would give the state money. So the state said, oh, well, how are we going to get more and more money each year? You know what? We don't just have to go after welfare recipients. We can go after the middle class, and we'll collect their child support. Even though they're paying their child support, we'll stick ourselves in the middle as an intermediary and make these parents pay the state collection agency the money so that they could report that to the feds to show that they were collecting more money each year. And so the amount of child support that was collected by the states went up dramatically, and so the states could get more money from the feds. Well, the problem is the amount of cost of those collections, and again, please don't hold me to the facts, but because it's been too long, you can look at my YouTube video. But as I recall, the cost of collection is now I believe, $6 billion a year, but they're only recovering, I think, $2 billion a year. So they're losing $4 billion a year to unnecessarily insert themselves in the middle as the collector for all this middle class money that was being paid anyway. So it's just become, a cash cow for the states that they don't want to give up. So they don't want to change the laws. They don't want to become more equal, more egalitarian, because they'll lose that source of federal money.
That's exactly right. I think that you've hit the nail on the head, that it's the states that have the issues. This is not the federal law that's doing anything that would prohibit the best interest of an actual best interest of the child. We seem to hear that term in court quite a bit, and we've brought it up on our program quite a bit, that was a hidden term and hidden agenda type term that was propaganda that was first pushed by Adolf Hitler. Is that correct?
What's that? Best interest of the child?
Best interest of the child.
The story I heard is it was Sigmund Freud's daughter wrote some books or articles on childcare, and she proposed this concept, the best interest of the child. And it's meaningless. I mean, it's so amorphous and ambiguous. What does it mean to one person? They want their kid to sit in the library and read books, and the other person wants them out in the football field throwing the ball around. What's in their best interest? Well, it depends on the child. Okay. And how is a judge with like 3 minutes to sit in front of each parent and listen to some made up spiel going to figure out what is in that child's best interest? They can't. The system's broken. And are we going to entrust that to some social worker who's 22 years old, doesn't know anything about life, is biased and prejudiced themselves to make these decisions? It's ridiculous. Yeah. So it really should be the best interest of the family, family as a whole. Even if it's a fractured family, it's take all of the parts of the family and come up with what's in everybody's best interest, not some arbitrary, judge's whim about who he or she thinks is the best parent for this child.
Yeah, I was just going to say that about the judges. They tend to make their own rulings with no degrees, talking about the children's frontal lobes aren't developed and they should be, they know what the child's best interests are. I'm like, how do you even come up with that statement when the fact is that you don't even know my child?
Right.
Who else knows the child? Nobody better but the parents. And even if they have two different ideas on what is the best interest, well, then they should try to let them work it out. And even though if they don't, it ain't up to a judge. I don't feel it is either. But that's when they get involved with third parties. They want a custody evaluator. They want to throw in a therapist, and they want to throw in a ton of other people where that's where all your money's going all the time.
Right. Yeah, and then when the guardian ad litem gets into the deal and they start billing at $300 an hour, and you can't even examine the bills, you just have to pay it, and your child can't examine the bills. So nobody has any oversight over these guardians ad litem. And it's just a money-making racket. It's so disgusting. It really is just heartbreaking how disgusting it is, and how our country would allow a system like this to operate within the United States is beyond me.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that it's the perpetual motion of the courtroom that allows further litigation, which ends up harming a child. I know that someone had brought up this point a while back, and I'll have to give them credit, whoever that was. But I did listen to someone who said, instead of the perpetual motion of litigation within the courtroom that cost monetary and causes monetary incentives, why don't we allow a child to be in a 50-50 situation for the most part until they gain the age of what they call consideration, which usually is 12, but it's different for each state and it's different for maturity level. And then they can make their own decision on what's best for them at the time, being mature enough to make that decision. But at the most part, we would really love to see a 50-50 sharing parenting plan. And I think that a lot of these bills, Joe, what I've seen with Mr. Mark Ludwig is there's a very good thing involved in here. There's two steps, one on the front end, one on the back end, I believe. The first step of that shared parenting plan would be a presumption rebuttal. And it would be allowing those people who have gone through domestic violence situations, pedophilia type situations, those different domestic, real putting a child in harm's way. Those kind of things would be brought up in a fitness hearing of both parents to make sure both parents are fit and able for a shared parenting plan to take place. And then on the back end of that, we would say if a judge wants to sway from the decision of equality, which is right in the middle, because let's face it, it's over here right now. But, you know, we're saying let's move the needle to equality for 50-50 custody. And then this presumption rebuttal would take it either way. And then on top of that, if a judge wants to sway one way or the other, they would have to give with clear and convincing evidence why they deviated from such a plan. And I believe that that is purely because we see so much hearsay in the family court system, and it seems to be allowed in the family court system as hearsay without any proof or evidence, no standards of evidence. And I think that that's where we fully recognize what is in the best interest of a child is 50-50 custody. And if we deviate from that, there has to be a particular reason. Is that something that you would also think would be great for a shared parenting bill? Or is there something, you know, maybe that we're forgetting about?
No, I think that's great. I think, again, I believe that we should follow the system that's in Sweden where the default is 50-50 shared parenting. And only if there's a, you know, provable significant issue, or if the parents otherwise agree to a different arrangement, would we deviate from 50-50 shared parenting? You know, I don't know. I haven't followed your show. I don't know if you've brought this up, but I don't know if you've looked at the school shooting situation.
Slightly.
Yeah, but it's been, you know, it's been brought up that most of the shooters did not have fathers in their lives.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, I again, I don't know where you guys are on the political spectrum, but, you know, I think bump stocks should be banned. And I don't think kids under the age of 21 should be allowed to buy an assault rifle or any kind of a weapon. But, you know, but I also believe in our Constitution. So, but there has to be some kind of balance. But nevertheless, the fact that almost all of these shooters have been raised in families without fathers, I think it says something. I mean, I'm a scientist, so I know that correlation is not always the same as causation, but it's getting to be pretty convincing now that, you know, these children are troubled. They're obviously mentally troubled, and whatever is going on in their lives is is pushing them over the edge. And to have a father there, I'm not saying a father is always going to be able to prevent that, but I think the father could make a huge difference in teaching that child, you know, how to take their emotions, their anger, their frustration, and put it in a positive direction rather than the negative direction that they tend to spiral down into. So, I mean, I think it's even more of a just a tragedy that our system would support single parenthood, or support having a dominant parent and excluding one of the parents from the children's lives in the face of this evidence that there's just these children, and they're boys. We'll have to admit they're boys. These shooters are boys, but you know, boys have unique emotions, and it's tough to be a teenager, and it's really, you know, you're going through these really tough years, and if you're mentally unstable, you could go over the edge without the proper kind of guidance. So I think it's another argument why we should have 50-50 custody, so that there is a mother and a father in that child's life.
Exactly.
Jay, without question, there's no denying the link, not even just for this latest school shooter, but there's so many different things. If you look at the reasons that even interviewing current or former gang members, the reason they're drawn there is for that family setting they don't have, and sometimes that the male figures around them. We need more people, fathers and men, teaching boys how to be men, how to deal with situations, how to deal with their problems like men, looking people in the eye, learning how to respect yourself as a man and be proud to be a man, and be chivalrous, and treat women like they deserve to be treated, and treat yourself and your children like they deserve to be treated. It's a very confusing world for kids, especially when they are fatherless, and they need mothers too. Absolutely, they need that nurture of a mother. Kids need both parents. There's no denying it. And there's, as you said, sir, that there's no denying in this latest shooting, the link. If you look at the whole story, and from what I've read and researched myself, which I know so many of us have done, because it's such a horrible tragedy, and our hearts from the show, and everybody grew up to Parkland, Florida, there, Broward County, I believe it is, and it's heartbreaking. And the link is undeniable, unfortunately, and it is, only word is disgusting, and it's unfortunate, but it's something that's fixable. That's, I think, the most frustrating thing too, when you know certain people see it out there and they know it, and there's solutions to it, and so that's why these sort of things, and having people like you, sir, on it to expose it and bring awareness. I think, Jay, you've mentioned that a lot too, and Pete, that and Jessie as well, to the people that don't believe they're affected need to be educated and see how they are or could be in the future, but ultimately are anyway. The way you discussed earlier, sir, the way the federal government, the states collect money, and how it all goes down. And you also brought up how you kind of went into, when I went in, I was very naive too. When I first went into the system in that way, I was a former police officer. I was really arrogant in the sense that you're totally different, criminal and civil law. But just the point of thinking that you know how it's going to work. You go in there having a certain idea, I'm going to tell the truth and do the right thing, and they're obviously not going to keep the child from me or do anything like that. And you go out completely stunned and in shock. And a lot of times, for me at the time, years ago, it was a downward spiral. And there's so much link to it. The drug abuse going on in the country and throughout the world. There's links there in terms of parents missing, and it's just all linked. And it is fixable.
Yeah, I think that you're right. It is fixable, bud. And what we have to do is recognize that all people are affected by this, because obviously, if you work a job, your Social Security is being robbed. You don't even have any idea that your Social Security is being robbed to pay the system, because it comes out of Title 40 benefits. And we can talk about Title 4, and I've said this before, we can talk about Title 4 and how bad it is with Title 4E and how they get the money from CPS, DCF type groups. That's a whole different ball game too. But there's Title 10, 8. I mean, and there's all kinds of titles within the Social Security Administration, and that fund really was set up for the elderly, who really were once they reach the age of retirement, which I think they're probably going to raise again. What we see every day is the Social Security system being robbed to pay the welfare system, to pay these divorce courts. And what ends up happening is you have an 85-year-old grandma that has to work at McDonald's and decide whether or not she chooses between her prescription drugs this month, or does she pay her rent. And I think that's awful. Joe, I know that you've gone through this so much, and you have so many contacts. We'd love to get in contact with anyone that you have, bring them on the show and talk about some of these issues, because I know that you interviewed some big time lawyers, or we should say the proper term. I know Kirk's not going to like me for not using the proper term, attorney. We'd love to talk to any of those people, the GALs. And I know that one case in particular that rubbed me completely the wrong way that you brought up in Divorce Corp was that there was an outcome or a decision based on a GAL and how much money the GAL could obtain. And in order to give them a favorable decision and a favorable outcome.
Was it 30,000, Jay? Was it 30,000?
Yes.
Like that? Yeah. Okay,
yes.
correct.
I know we reviewed that today. What I mean, I just can't even get at the extortion there. So basically, this now, Joe, from my understanding, what you're saying in a lot of these cases with divorce in the United States is it's a pay-to-play system, correct?
I think that's true. Unfortunately, I think that's true. And, you know, people often listen to these shows looking for advice because they're going through tough situations. And I wish I didn't have to say what I'm about to say, but if I were going through it again, I would find a lawyer that's connected with my judge and who plays golf with the judge, who went to school with the judge, who used to be in the same law firm as the judge or whatever, and whose law firm gives donations to the judge's campaign. I hate to say that, but that is.
Well, it's a sad commentary. It's a sad commentary, but it's you can't. There's no denying the fact that your blunt honesty. It's true. You know, in terms of, you know, it's sad to be able to have to say that, but I can hear it in your voice too. The kind of coming to that sad realization.
Yeah. I was naive when I tried to defend myself and just thought by telling the
good
truth,
word,
you know, being a decent guy, that I would get fair treatment. And what I learned is you need that these lawyers have relationships with these judges that go way back, and they're swayed by it. It's human nature. I mean, even if we don't call it corruption, it's just simply at a minimum human nature.
Yeah, human nature. Humans are corruptible, aren't they? A lot of times, you know, we are just fallible in that way as human beings. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
That's all right. We're terribly corruptible, and
yeah, absolutely.
We're capable of believing things that aren't true. We're capable of being persuaded by emotional arguments, and we rely heavily on the people we know, and we trust their word more than a stranger. And so, you know, I just hate to say it, and it's an old cliche, but, you know, getting a lawyer that knows the judge, that the judge respects or is a friend of, it's horrible to say it, but that's probably going to give you your best outcome. And getting up there and fighting with the judge and calling the judge a jerk or anything like that, or trying to call the judge's corruption out in the courtroom, or threatening that you're going to appeal the case, or your constitutional rights prohibit the judge from doing all the asshole things they do, isn't going to get you anywhere. And I wish it would, but it doesn't. It doesn't. So, yeah.
It's hard in Bergen County, where I am in New Jersey. They rotate judges.
Okay.
so you can have one time. The next time you go in, and I think I had about 5 out of they just added about another 4 or 5 judges there. They gave them because the court cases are so backed up. But I think I went through the initial 5 or 6 that were there to begin with. So they all know. But it's just sad because you keep going back in. One judge rules one thing, the other judge overrules it. Nobody gets sanctioned. Nobody gets held accountable for anything. And I say, why am I following the order for the last 8 years and nothing's going on over here? Like, where's the equality? Where's the weight and balance? Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, Pete, we talked too, and I was discussing this with I have before with my wife in terms of the system encourages dysfunction. You know, we encourage people in the courts to conduct themselves that way, and we split families, and we keep keep children from loving parents, and we wonder why they don't know how to conduct relationships in life. You know, all they see is dysfunction. It's encouraged when the parent. So these next generations are coming up, especially with the technology we have today. No one really knows how to hold a healthy relationship. No one really knows how to get into an argument with a friend and then resolve it in a healthy way and move on and grow from it. It's usually an explosion. People don't know how to be genuine. So, you know, they don't know how to be genuine at all because their parents haven't been in a lot of cases, and they practice what they see. That's all they know. So again, it bleeds over to the family as a whole, generationally. It gets worse until we have the wherewithal. I think we have the wherewithal now. It's the being able to speak out on it without embarrassment. That, you know, yes, we need families intact, and that doesn't always mean it can't always be intact. You know, always in the ideal way, I guess, behind the same walls, but learning how to work together outside of it. If you do have to split, You know, and not putting the children in the middle, as we talked about, because it's only going to hurt us as a whole over time even more. It's only going to get worse until we deal with it.
Right. And I think one of my biggest questions here for Joe is going to be how the movement is. And it seems to be within the movement, we start on an agenda in one course, and then we seem to sabotage ourselves because some people can't get along and the dynamics that are there. Are we stronger as a movement? Can we make a legitimate push towards legislation in a way that would be conducive to support both parents for equality? Because obviously this, as we've said, is not something that people were selected for. It selected them. And we're in this boat right now. What do we do about it to get ourselves out of it? Because we can talk about the depressing stuff all day, but what do we do to motivate people up towards action? Because obviously, the civil rights era had its moment. The LGBT community had their moment. I think this in 2018, 2019 might be parents' moments for equality. And I want your take on that.
Well, there's a saying, and I don't know if I have it exactly right, but it's something that ideas get changed one funeral at a time. And what it means is, as older generations die off, the younger generations come in with the new ideas, and it's really hard to change the older generation's minds about things. My parents' generation were a generation of people where the mom stayed at home, the dad went to work, and the mom took care of the kids, and the dad brought home the money, and that's just how it was. And my generation, and I think the generations that have come after me, are more egalitarian, more open to equal sharing of all kinds of responsibilities. And I do think that given a lot of the changes in viewpoint about gender over the last couple of years, it is an opportunity to bring this up. I once talked to a feminist about this and said, well, okay, I'll support your agenda with respect to feminism. Why don't you support this agenda when it comes to shared parenting? Oh, I don't want to hear about that. That's your problem. And I really do think that there are people who believe that because of the biological differences between men and women, that women are better suited to raise children. And, they can point to certain animals where, the male is there to mate with the female during, certain days during the year, and otherwise goes off on his own. But then there are other species of animals where it's a 50-50 job, and they're there all the time. The men are there or the males are there all the time. And so, how to characterize what humans are is subjective. And I have a scientific background, and I'm not claiming to have any expertise here, but I've read a lot about it, and I think based on what I've read, we're kind of hybrids. We have some, of the lion in us, and some of the bird pairing in us. We're not like chimpanzees. We're different. We're more social animals. We've learned how to cooperate. We've learned how to share in ways that many animal species don't, or many primate species don't. So I think we're different, and I think for humans, so much of survival is dependent upon what we learn after we're born. You look at a horse, and within an hour after it's born, it's up running and eating and on all that. Whereas a human, it takes a year before we can even walk. So there's enormous amounts that we have to learn, and I think that we learn that from both parents. Two heads are better than one. Each person has things that they can teach that the other one may not know as much about. And so I think, it is something that I think society is going to warm up to over time. I'm not sure if it's going to happen in 2018 or 2019. You know, I tried to make get a message out there with Divorce Corp, and you know, we got 1-star ratings from the family lawyers and the extreme feminists, and we got 5-star ratings from most everyone else. There was very little in between. But you know, this topic, you just have to accept that it's not cocktail party discussion. It's not Divorce Corp. The movie was not a family movie. It wasn't a date movie. It wasn't something you go to your wife and say, "Hey, honey, let's go watch this movie about divorce."
Right.
Right. So.
Although I will say, I did say that to my wife. Watched some of the clips with me, and we did. I got to watch this. She said we do. So, but on a different level, just for education and also the things that I do. So it's so it looks excellent, sir.
So thank you. But my point that I'm trying to make is it's difficult to spread this word. This is not a fun topic. It's not a Disneyland topic. It's not a happy ending topic. It's a sad ending topic some of the times. And people just generally are not drawn to those types of stories as they are to the happy ending story. And it's not like a school shooting where a number of children are dead on the sidewalk. The damage that's done to the children is much more subtle and long lasting. And so it's very hard to have, a poster child for divorce because, the effects are so complex and long lasting that it's not something that's just super obvious from looking at the child. So I think we will see a slow progression toward equality. And I think that will come about probably faster than it normally would because women have entered the workforce and many times they are the breadwinner now. And because many women are breadwinners, they're going to be more active in this area because they're starting to see how dysfunctional the system is and how the breadwinner is taken advantage of by the system and treat it like an ATM machine. And so the more women that we get into the movement who are experiencing what many of us have experienced, the faster we'll get change.
That's exactly right. And I think that, unfortunately, Jessie is not on right now, but that, when we came down to the selection of a third co-host, when we first did that, and it was because we really did want a woman's voice in this, because obviously it's ultimately important that maybe a wife of someone who's going through this, or maybe a woman who's going through a bad custody dispute decision on these things, their voice may weigh a little bit more heavy because they are on that side of the equation where we're talking about gender or gender bias or the evolution of mankind, when we're talking about how a woman's body is and produces milk and all of those things. So we wanted that, and I think that it's worked out great for us so far, having that extra voice who can speak from the other side of the equation. And I want to close this out by going over some of the comments here. I know I've got quite a few hellos to you there, Joe. Definitely a lot of people who love you and love the documentary. I've seen that so far. Facts versus feelings, correct. I completely agree with that. Based off of historical fact, accurately assessed. I'm not sure what that was in reference to because we've kind of gone farther, but yeah, go ahead.
And I will say this, Jay, I believe this is, I'll put that out there. Pete, a lot of times, especially lately, we've decided he's going to do our comments, and Jay and I were more than happy to fill in for Pete because he takes a special phone call around this time of night from his little boy. So that's where Pete is for just a couple of minutes, which people don't know if they don't. He does that during the show. It's something we very much encourage, and we kind of chuckle behind the scenes and smile. So he's having a nice conversation. He'll be right back with us. Jay, the comments I've seen, we have a lot coming in. I was trying to keep up with some of them too. And people definitely can feel this documentary, unfortunately. And I believe you said something, Joe, in the beginning, some of the effect of this wasn't something I chose. You know, it kind of chooses you. Sometimes your path in life falls in your lap and you're kind of forced into action through no desire of your own sometimes. You know, I had a gentleman I used to work with in a certain job that I did a long time ago. He said, you know, no one ever wakes up and wants to necessarily be this. But sometimes it's here and you've got to face it and confront it. And sometimes your path finds you in that way. And obviously you have a voice, you have a talent. And again, as Jay said too, in closing, we really appreciate it. We'd love to have you on again. And thanks for staying on with us. I know it's later in the evening, so thank you very much for taking the time.
Absolutely.
I know people enjoyed it, were enlightened and educated by it. So again, thank you, sir.
Yes, and Joe, I know that you're probably involved in other projects. If you want to go ahead and give those a good pump for the stuff that you're doing, we would definitely allow that time for that right now.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm actually, yes, I have moved into other areas, and you know, we're actually making a comedy in Canada right now. It's in second season, called Working Moms. And it's doing extremely well, and it's about professional women who have toddlers and are struggling with balancing their professional lives with their parental lives. So, you know,
wow.
I think I bring that up because, you know, I don't approach this from a gender biased way. I approach it from, I think, a position of sanity where it just makes more sense to have both parents in a child's life. And the other thing I'm doing is we have a new studio here, and I'm about to start 2 programs. One of them is called The Erroneous Zone, and it's going to be a comedy where we take certain issues that are controversial in our society and try to bring some laughter out with respect to those issues.
I like it.
And then the other is I'm going to do more of an instructional show where we take various topics and I interview professors and people that are very learned and authors about topics like economics, government, budgets, fiscal issues, national debt, the kinds of things that you hear a lot about in the news, but oftentimes, you know, what does that really mean when you hear about the consumer price index? I mean, what kind of get a concept was about how, you know, who decides and how do they decide, and is it real, and are they fake, and all that kind of thing. So,
I can already tell before we bring Pete on, because Pete is back. You're definitely someone. You're a thinker, sir. You're deep. We would have an issue if I talked to you, because I'd probably keep you on the phone for about 8 hours. I can tell you definitely have some deep thoughts. And again, I love the way you're making these comedies and things and the different things you're doing. So I would implore everybody out there to go ahead and check out your show and all the things you're doing. And I definitely will be keeping an eye on it, checking it out, and getting involved in any way we can as a show. Thank you, sir, very much. And Pete McNeil is back.
Yes, Joseph. I wanted to get one thing. I'm sorry because I had to get off the call because my son called in, so I can't miss that call. But two, I wanted to say I really didn't get to ask you too many questions, and the reason is because as I thought of a question, you already came out with an answer right after that. So
right.
A great guest, I have to tell you, because you caught me off guard. I was like, oh no, he got it. He got it already. The last thing I like to say, if you ever need any extra actors, you just call me up. Let me know. I'll be there.
Great.
He's got that Brooklyn flair. He's great. He's wonderful, Joe. Definitely.
Okay.
Reach out to the real deal McNeil. Thank you, sir, again. It's been wonderful. And again, thanks for your time. Thank you very much.
Definitely. Thank you, Joe. And I'll be in contact for sure so that we can get some more of those contacts from the documentary. And we'll have them on and we'll promote them as much as we can and what they can do to help this movement. So thank you so much. We appreciate it.
All right. You're very welcome.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
All right. So.
That was incredible, guys.
Absolutely. Incredible.
And I just want to say, we had mentioned it last week, I believe, the absolutely thing. And I think all 3 of us in unison almost, or, said absolutely about how great he was. But absolutely he was. Sometimes that's the only, superlative you can use, some sort of descriptive, absolutely wonderful. Mm-hmm. And I'm getting some comments. Somebody just PM said, love the show tonight. Thanks, everybody out there. That was a great first half. Incredible. Keeps getting better and better. Like I said, this man is someone, Jay, I know too, yourself, and I know Pete, someone you'd like to just dig his brain because he's very smart and very deep and quite a thinker. Someone who dissects. He mentioned his connection with authors, and that doesn't, of course, he seems like quite a philosopher, in terms of he's a very insightful man, and the energy he puts off is definitely it's tangible. Again, thanks, Joe. What a great first half.
Absolutely, I think, and I of course I had to say it again. Absolutely,
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. That's the word of the day.
Cannot agree more. I mean, I think that Joe is just an amazing guy, first off, and then having the wherewithal to go through the divorce that he did in order to reach out and make as many contacts as he could in order to build the story like this. It's almost similar to Mr. Stephen Krasner and how he writes.
Yeah. Well, any of those, sorry, Jay, real quick, any of those deeper sort of personalities, those deeper thinkers, the dissectors, the ones who go inward in their mind almost, kind of have that. You can tell Stephen obviously is polished, someone like Stephen, but sometimes that's just a lot of it's a natural talent. People sometimes have the ability where you can feel what they write, and Stephen's one of those too, because the best writers too are people that have been through hell, just like a lot of times, you have to. Sometimes, and Pete will concur, and you too, Jay, and I know people out there, you cannot, it's kind of like method actors, people that can actually be the character. Sometimes you can't do that unless you live it. And you see a lot of times where a character and their inner conflicts come real close to real life. Matter of fact, not to digress too much, we were watching one of my favorite shows, The Shield, with Vic Mackey, and one of the actors, Michael Jace, has a character named Julian. He's in prison for murdering his wife now in real life. And I'm not saying any of the issues he had on that show were necessarily the same issues he dealt with in life, but I said to my wife, she can tell you, but way before he committed this heinous murder, I said to my wife, that man has issues. I can tell you, I can feel it. And the way he was acting too, some of the inner conflict you could almost feel was genuine. That method, whatever the turmoil was, you could definitely feel it. So it didn't overly surprise me when I found out what he had done. Kind of digressed a little bit there, but so my point to that was sometimes you can't write like that without living it, without actually going through hell and coming back.
Absolutely, I'd agree, and I think that we in this movement sometimes we have this unique ability to where we've been knocked down into the ashes of life. We get the ability sometimes to either lie down or we get back up. And when we get back up, we rise like a phoenix from the ashes, and we start doing things that empower other people and take them along with us. I think that this is what I'm seeing in the movement, and I want to get people excited about that because I see people like Mark Ludwig, I see people like Chris Hallett, I see people like out there, Randy Davis, Neil Shelton, even though he's kind of silent and doing his thing behind the scenes, I think he's doing an amazing job. So I want to say a big shout out to some of those people because keep doing what you're doing. And those that I didn't mention, keep doing what you're doing and keep doing it harder. Keep pushing because it's like somewhat biblical, where you march around the walls of Jericho and then finally it falls. This is going to be one of those moments that the walls of Jericho are going to fall. And you just got to keep marching, keep your head down and keep marching it.
And unfortunately too, Jay, that as much as, again, I don't minimize pain, and a lot of people are victimized, in this system, but you can't have that mentality no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
You maybe, but what you got to do is never put your head down as much as it hurts. And we also, I won't get too deep, but I've had private conversations in particular with Mr. The Real Deal McNeil, Pete, and talking about stepping away when you have to kind of recharge, I'll say. And we all have to do that. We have to look inward and go, okay, I'm starting to feel burnt, and I'm starting to put that outward. And I can tell now well enough with Pete and with Jay in particular, and they can with me, when It's like, okay, bud, go put some cold fizzy water on your head and relax a little bit. And it's the same, it's pain sometimes. Again, we've talked about it's unbearable. It seems like at times. But what happens is, but when you actually live through it and you do wake up the next day and you say, wait a minute. You start, again, as Jay said, you start to rise. And it's up to people like us to keep that momentum going.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. What I'm going to do right now here is we're going to take a break, and Mr. Peter McNeil will be taking over. So go ahead and be slow because I'm going to take my time here getting back. We're going to take our break, and Mr. Peter McNeil is going to take over.
All right. We have, let's see, we got March 4th, Sunday. Represent yourself in family court, 11 p.m. online. See Dana Klustra for more details. March 20th, Tuesday. Bring our children home. Family court protest. 7:30 a.m. at Manatee County Courthouse. See Pat Griffith for more details. March 22nd, Thursday. Operation Bring Our Children Home. 7 p.m. Operation Bring Our Children Home. See Michelle, Charmaine, and Dansby for more details. March 25th, Sunday, first annual remembrance of Nancy Schaefer in Clarksville, Georgia, 8 a.m., Pitt Park, Clarksville, Georgia. See Ted Fogg for more details. March 26th, Monday, third annual remembrance of Nancy Schaefer rally, 8 a.m., Washington, D.C. area. See Brian Lee for more details. April 27th, Friday, Parental Alienation Awareness Conference, 7 a.m., Zemzem Shrine Club. See Rita Marie Daly for more details. There will be a call to action for Illinois Fathers for Equality for the next few weeks, calling legislators. See Chad Loudermilk for more details. Also, Iowa and Alabama may both have a floor vote in the Senate on Thursday of this week. Please keep that in mind. And Jay for birthdays.
I'm going to unmute here. All right, so we're back on this one here. I want to go ahead and get to the birthday list now, and it's ultra important, guys. We celebrate everything in this movement because we are going through some situations where we're down. It's always nice to say happy birthday to some awesome people, and so I'm going to say first off, a late happy birthday to Mr. Peter McNeil, who just celebrated a birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, my brother. What is it, 21 now? Are you 21?
Absolutely.
What I do to go back to being 21, boy.
No, awesome. What I said yesterday that 24. I said, I'm sorry, Pete. It's 25 today. I apologize for that.
Man.
Happy birthday, brother McNeil.
Thank you, guys.
Awesome. So today, celebrating a birthday out there, Mr. Benjamin Schaefer, Carl Granham, Kimberly Joy, Vicky LeBeau, Rick Bertrand. Wednesday, we've got Christy Carr, Jesse Culm, Rose Johnson, Chris Lehman, Carmen Santiago, Jenny Thibodeau. Thursday, we've got Jim Runstand, Shelly Louise. Friday, we've got Mr. Bill Palmer, Jason Anson, Paul Hess. Saturday, Dr. Sammy Espinoza, and Lauren Welsher, and Dr. Craig Childress, celebrating a birthday. Marcus Brown, Gloria Hellman, Rose Collins, Amy Diane. Sunday, we have our good friend who's been on the program, Marissa Hamilton, Greg Roberts from the SLU, Andy Kershaw, Thomas Johnson, Douglas Dinak, John Creighton, Tracy Gorham. Monday, we've got Donna Miner, Andrew Ostrowski, Michael Thompson, Melinda Boggs, and Danielle Mitchell. So to all of those celebrating a birthday out there, happy birthday from the Far From Normal radio show. If you have a event that you would like to have us share live on the air, or a birthday, even if it's for a young one of your young ones, we will be happy to announce that on the air. Just send us a line at the Far From Normal Radio Show at gmail.com, and we will be happy to read that live on the air. So I'm going to do this here before we even come back and mute myself. And we are back on the Far From Normal Radio Show. This is Jay Moss and my co-host, Mr. Bud Veno. Bud, how are you doing?
Yo, 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 and yo, Jay Moss. February 27th, 2018. I almost said 17. I'm going to keep doing that until the end of 2018, I'm quite sure. Unfortunately, we don't have Jessie Weiner on with us tonight. I think as she described it, she feels like she's been, quote unquote, hit by a truck? Truck or car? Not feeling, Max, is that what it was?
Yeah,
she's not feeling well, so get well, Jessie. We love you. We miss you. But we do have on the aforementioned Pete, the real deal McNeil. How are you, brother Pete?
I'm doing great, man. I was in a little bit of a slump. I had to take a little step back for a little bit, but then I did some self, whatever you call it. It felt good.
Reflection.
Yeah, that's what you call it. But I'm looking at all the love, man, and I want to thank everybody that's watching the show and for all the comments. I wish I could read them all, but I'm not going to. We need another hour for that. But thank you, everybody, for the birthday wishes. I appreciate it. And everybody tuning into the show, man. We love you all also. We do.
Absolutely.
Well,
I agree.
Pete, we love you, brother. And it's all about growth. We all come to those points where, especially when we're on a roll, and then all of a sudden you hit these certain walls in life, and you have feelings you didn't expect. You have roadblocks. There's certain things that get to you didn't think would get to you. And it's all about learning how to handle those and going inward a little bit and learning what it is, too, that's bothering you deep down, no matter what it is, and growing from it. And, Pete, you only grow from it. You're back on tonight better than ever, and only going to get better as we all do. We continue to grow as everybody else does out there, and you're a pillar of strength because Pete, again, as he said, was feeling pretty vulnerable and kind of feeling a little bit, I don't want to use the word rudderless, but, hey, we all get in those positions where we say, hey, what am I doing? And especially someone like Pete, as I've talked to him about privately, when you're someone who empowers, when you're not always feeling on top of your game, who do you turn to? Well, I can tell you what, we all have somebody. You all got me, we got Pete, and we're glad you're back, Pete, with us, myself, Jay Moss, and unfortunately Jesse's not here, but the three of us tonight. What a wonderful first
Absolutely. Half. You know what it is? Listen, you could take a few days off, but see, I didn't grow up with a father. I had 3 surrogate dads, my 2 uncles and my grandfather. And you know what? You can only self-pity for so long. And then you get a smack and say, get back out there. That's exactly right. And you know what? I have a good group of friends that do that.
Pete, well, Pete, it's funny because my biological father, again, this isn't a pity thing, left when I was young, but I was fortunate enough to have a really good stepdad who was very young. He passed away in 2010. We didn't always have a easy road of it, but he was in so many ways a real man. And he was old school like that. But a lot of people ask, well, that's where I got a lot of my core, the way we were very different personality-wise. Sometimes, he would look and kind of smile at my antics, and other times it would rub it. He couldn't. It was frustrating.
There was no snowflaking and there was no compromising back then.
Yeah, there was no complaining. You did what you had to do, and you dealt with what you had to deal with. You took care of business, and basically, shut up, don't bitch. So I try to bring a little bit of that along with a little benevolence to my boys, a little bit softer side and a more verbal side. That was one thing. My stepdad, God rest his soul, he wasn't very good at verbalizing his feelings, and that's something I am very much the opposite. Believe it or not, I'm very opposite of that. I'm very verbal and very descriptive in how I feel, and I let people know it. Again, I decided not to complain that poor Bud didn't receive certain things in life. No, I said I'm going to give it, and it feels even better to give it because you get it.
Yep.
And it feels good to give it even more so than begging to receive it. It does a lot of times feel better to give than to receive, guys.
Mm-hmm. That's absolutely true, and I think that it's the same thing when you become an adult and you actually give your children a Christmas present. It's kind of that same feeling where it's just like, it's the envisionment of the world through their eyes rather than the world through your eyes, because it's the wonder, the majesty of it all, and how you take it in. And imagine kind of like someone who has been blind all of their lives, and all of a sudden they can see, they have one of these operations and they can finally see. It's one of those.
Great analogy, Jay. Yeah, great analogy, Jay. Yeah, really, because it really is, Jay. I'm sorry to interrupt you, which I so often do, and then I give those apologies and do it over again 5 minutes later, right? So I apologize, Jay. But no, it truly is like a gift in that way when you actually enlighten someone. And again, knowledge is power. And when you actually empower someone, as I say, I don't like the term motivation, because I can motivate anyone, to clean my bedroom and leave, and they'll want to clean it the next day. But to empower someone, to give them the strength on their own, to be able to stand on their own and get knowledge on their own and build from that, that's the best gift in the world. To see someone who came to us a year ago, Jay, or Pete, and didn't think they could do something. And then, within a few weeks, they're doing exactly the thing they didn't think they could ever do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. And I've just been through a lot in my case, and I'll be going back and forth into court, and I wanted to share this with everybody because there's so much behind it when you're dealing with some of these things. There's not only the aspects of the financial hardship that it creates, but it's even when you do get time, some of that time is what they call dance card booking time. So I wanted to dig into that a little bit. What is dance card booking? Dance card booking is when you have a lot of time with your child from the family court system for the court order. And the court order itself says that you are allotted one night a week or every other weekend, if you get that. And then let's say, for instance, the custodial parent, we'll just use the term custodial parent right now, who has the majority of the time, would interfere in your time as a parent by what they call dance card booking. What that entails and what that means is they have tried to sign up the children for other events, either that be gymnastics or ball games or sports or athletics or choirs or bands or orchestras or whatever it may be, but deliberately did it in imposing your time with your child. And that happens a lot. So I wanted to review that, guys, with you. That shouldn't be allotted. That shouldn't be allowed by the family court system, but it's being allowed because we have, again, an adversarial system with perpetual motion that's asking you for more and more and more and more of your income all of the time. And so they're hoping that this happens because that means you're going back into the family court system. Every time you walk into the family court system, cha-ching. That's exactly what they're saying. Yep. Hey, and I guess that's where, I don't know, is that where you gave me the nickname Money Moss? I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm paying so much.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's what it is when they say someone's money, right? They're just money. They're on. Yeah. They just got someone. When A-Rod used to just ding all those, he's just money. You know what I mean? And Jay's money. Got it.
Oh, but we've given a few people nicknames around here. We've got to give Bud one around here one of these days. But
well, they're very organic. They come very naturally. That just flows. Pete the Real Deal McNeil. You know, J Money Ma. Everyone's got a nickname generally with me. I usually come up with it.
Yeah.
With something. You know, Brother Hallett. That's Brother Hallett. Just he's Brother Hallett. Chris Hallett, Brother Hallett.
I think according to last night, Mr. Bud Veno became Mr. 3 a.m. because
did you record any of those messages? There was a couple I left you.
I have them. I'm sure I can record them. Some of them were absolutely hilarious.
Well, I didn't realize, and I was so excited as I get it, especially as the show grows and the more fun we have, which we always do. As a 1985 John Hughes movie, Weird Science quote, I could have fun in an insurance seminar. But truly, I get so excited. Jay can tell you, I was sending him voicemails when I wasn't even, I had just woken up. And I mean, just, and I was so excited, I didn't realize the message he sent back. He said, Bud, you're way too awake for 2 whatever. It was almost 3 a.m. And I was like, yo, is everybody ready for the show? And I look and I'm like, I don't think they are. But I said, guys, what did I say? Like 18 hours away. Like I'm sitting here in the queue waiting. I'm on there. I'm ready. I'm ready to go. But no, it's really exciting.
Yeah. Bud was ready and pumped, guys, for this show with Joseph Sorge at 3 a.m. last night. And I'm just finishing with the video, and I haven't even gone to bed yet. And Bud's here, pumped up, ready to go. Let's get in.
Well, a lot of it was your fault too, because when I woke up and I said, "We ready?" I scrolled up and I saw you had just in our group put the intro out, like yes. the rough cut of the intro, and I got really excited. And Jay was up working, and I knew that I also knew selfishly that the way Pete, the things that had happened, it was gonna lead to a really good show. It's always been that way for me. Even when I played sports, whenever I felt like garbage physically and didn't think I was gonna have a good game, it was like hat trick time. Boom, 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 knocking the water bottle right off the top of the net. But I felt great, and I'm like, I'm undefeatable. I get knocked on my ass and knocked out. Or I couldn't collect a pass even. And I knew with Pete, pain sometimes breeds greatness. Yeah. Self-doubt sometimes breeds the best work. So I knew with Pete, I just wait because I don't know Pete as well as I'm going to get to know him because we're going to continue throughout this life to get to know each other. He's a great man, a great father. But from what I do know, I knew it was just going to lead to greatness. I said, don't worry, brother. This is exciting to watch.
Exactly. And I know that Mr. Mark Ludwig was probably going to be calling in a little bit later, and I'm hoping that he still does. I know that he's going to give us an update on some of the things that's going on in Iowa and Alabama, like we just said in the middle of the broadcast there, Pete did, it could be this week. It could be early as this week, this Thursday, that they're coming forth with this shared parenting to pass the Senate. And then on their side, I think it's the Senate has to pass first and then go to the House to be ratified. But obviously, I know that he may or may not be calling in. I'm hoping he does. But I know Mark's got a lot to attend to as well. So I know that he's got so many things and, so many items.
He does. Yeah. And Mark's an amazing man, the work he's doing. And see, the work that he's doing, too, is pushing the other states that haven't progressed to that level. It's kind of forcing their hand, in terms of addressing the issue of parental alienation and also shared parenting. Because, again, if people around you are all doing it and you're getting pressure to do the same in terms of what's right, again, Mark is not just doing the physical work, in terms, again, with what you see. It's actually, again, making and forcing the hands of politicians and people to take notice all around the world. And he's leading to change. I mean, this is a man, honestly, that's doing so much. He doesn't even he does realize it, I think, in terms of, and I know sometimes it's overwhelming, but this is a man on a mission. And the reason he's so benevolent, too, the reason I love Mark is because he does it with such joy, because when you love the way you see with his son Levi, and it's so genuine, and it's so pure, he just knows you're undefeated. Love is, you can't trump love. That's the thing too, and you can't trump what's right. So that's why I said to Pete too, the pain that a lot of the pain that Pete was going through and Jay has gone through and that I went through in the past is this is why you're going to win. And Pete's pain and my pain and Jay's is because of love. So that's why you always know when the other party is doing something simply to hurt you and they don't care about the collateral damage, meaning their own child, as much as it hurts, because again, we a lot of times we just feel, we just automatically feel like other people have the same hearts we do. We would never do this. Of course, that can't be really what it is. Sometimes we're in doubt too. There's no way. Well, there's a way. And that's why you have to sometimes put away your delicate sensibilities and your loving memories of not so distant past sometimes, because that'll get you annihilated. But the pain that people feel out there is why you'll win a lot of the times, if you can harness it in the right way.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're kind of coming down to, and what we're seeing in a lot of the frustration, I think that Pete, myself, and you, we've all had at times, is the frustration of people being able to harness it in the right way. Harnessing it in a constructive way that causes unity and harmony rather than destructive natured, bad-willed intention comments that could end up hurting. And quite frankly, I had a conversation with one person today, and I'll reveal the conversation. I won't reveal what it was about or who it was. But basically the conversation was that someone wanted to say something about someone else because they wanted to stand in defense of something that was said about them. And my push on this, like Bud, I'm sure Bud has pushed me in that direction. He's always said, "Hey, Jay, it doesn't matter what they think. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you can look at yourself in the mirror and be happy and proud. It doesn't matter what they think." And that's the same. You going out there and you responding, okay, well, I had to protect my reputation. For what reputation? For
right, exactly. Again, I never try to, and we say this a lot, Jay, I never try to convince anyone of anything. I convey facts. What people think or feel, so I could care less. And I don't say that. I say that again. I use the word benevolent a lot. I say that in a very benevolent way. Again, I care about myself and love myself enough. And we've all been there, Jay, especially when you feel like you're totally, completely doing the right thing and you get punched in the gut and you feel rudderless. That's when you feel hopeless and you feel sometimes like, what is the way out? And we've all been there. As Jay said, and I've been there too, where Pete and Jay have come together. But, a lot of people, we keep a lot of that stuff private. But my point is, we've all been down. We've all been hurting because we miss our children. So, and that's where we start to lose it. And Jay, you're getting on the fact too of people. I always say, be selfish. How is interacting going to benefit me in the future? Tunnel vision. And again, who cares? People are going to say what they're going to say, and they're going to do whatever. Again, I always say too, and I'm not the first who said it, and I won't be the last. You can't control what people do, but you can absolutely control your reaction. Yep. And Jay, I've seen Jay's progression too, because you get kind of giddy when you actually start to change certain behaviors and you learn to let certain things go. I know Jay and I would get excited to give as little attention to negativity as we couldn't see how it just diffused. People can't argue when you're not arguing back. And Jay and I, hey, look at that. It's amazing how, and it will get easier because people, a lot of times, because of insecurities, will feel compelled to respond. I have to protect. You got to protect your reputation from who? Someone you'll probably never meet. And even if you did meet them, who cares? If someone bases how they feel about you, someone else just simply says, "Oh, so and so is this," and someone else completely changes their opinion of you. Whatever.
It's not going to happen. No. Because you responding, the problem with you responding into all this, you're never going to change their opinion. It's not going to work. So why would you even respond to it? When you know you're not going to change their opinion of you. You just keep on driving on doing your thing. And guess what? If you keep on driving on and you keep on doing your thing, and if they're still there, then guess what? They're a follower. We always
say, Jay, too. And if you really say, you've got to think about it in literal terms like this. We've said this, we've laughed when you really think about it, but it's true. Do you think that someone after all these arguments and all that's going to go, you know what? I've just decided you're totally right. And a lot of these arguments, obviously, Jay, we see too that they get really nasty.
Yeah.
You know, especially because people, you know what? I am a piece of shit. You're right. I didn't really see it, but you're right. And what do you think? And who cares if someone doesn't agree with you? I say, unless they're, financing you, feeding you, or some other F words, even then.
Yeah.
I never let anyone have that much influence in my life, believe me. Because again, at the end of the day, when you're taking your last breath, you're going to say, damn, man, I wish I impressed so-and-so more. You know, you're going to say, and again, the key to living right is, as you mentioned, Jay, too, we've talked about being able to look in the mirror. If you can look in the mirror at the end of the day, you're fine and feel content. Not say, you know what? Because we've all done it in life where we've done something we weren't proud of, or where we were disingenuous, and we're like, you know what? I'm a goddamn fraud. You know, we've all had those where we've said, that was shitty, man. I'm going to pay for that karma-wise. So what I try and do, we all have. So what I'm saying is, too, is I try and, in life, too, that's why I let people know, even today with pictures I put up. I'll give a shout-out to Rhiannon Healy out there. Rhiannon Piper used to be in Heather Spangler in a picture, and my friend Shane Jubert grew up with after Nashua and Ware. And I let people know how I feel. I let people, I'm very big on that because I've been to the brink of hell, death, seen a lot of things. And I think it's really important. It's important to, my point to that was, when I go throughout my day, I will, with every interaction, will I be proud of this tonight? Am I going to, and I never, even if I always make sure people know too how I feel. I never mince words. Even if it's, and not in an angry way at all, but I'll stop myself if I don't fully say what I want to say and go, no, you know what? I've got to actually clarify that. But I'll look people right in the face. It doesn't matter who it is. It's not being a tough guy. It's very much because it's about integrity. And I've said with my wife standing there, told certain police officers, high ranks, you're a piece of shit. And with not even a mad face. No, you're a piece of shit. And I don't care for you. And it's about integrity for me. It's about being a man and being a good human being. I can not necessarily agree with something that someone does, but if they do it in a forward way and it's their way and it doesn't hurt anyone, I could not agree, but I'm going to respect it. Mm-hmm. But when someone's shady, when you're shady and you're not a man, or you're not a good father, a good mother, and you're a liar, and we all lie. Like I said to my wife, we all lie. We're all hypocrites on some level. We all are on some level. We're all human. We all tell even the little white lies. Honey, do I look fat? No, honey, you don't. If they do. That goes for men and women, with everything. You sometimes you do things to protect people, but others, it's about, at the end of the day, be going, you know what? Again, I'm making a short story long. But being able to say, you know what? I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it. And if you have that situation where you're like, this is unresolved, because that sort of thing where things are unresolved and you don't say what you want to say, you don't do what you feel like you should have done, that's the shit that goes inside and causes you turmoil as life goes on. That unfinished business, the thing you should have said, should have done, the regret, which Jay, that's a dirty word. We don't use that. It's experience, but that's when you feel regret. I should have, would have, could have. Well, there's no yesterday, but there's tomorrow. There's right now. So you're looking at, what can I do now to make myself happy? What can I do now to fix? And sometimes, that's my way sometimes too. The meme I put up for my friend Rhiannon, and people laugh at it, she too, is if I can make one person smile or pee their pants a little bit, or just spit out a drink, my day wasn't wasted.
Yeah, I'm just like you. I would rather deal with someone who's genuinely shitty than to deal with someone who's genuinely shady. And Pete, I want your opinion on this, because obviously, you've been around a little bit, and I want to give you an opportunity to talk about this, because it's just, it affects everybody. So I want everybody's opinion on it.
The only thing that I can really is say on is just like, that I just try to surround myself with real people, and honesty and everything like that, loyalty. Those are all things that I wasn't just family raised with that. I was also streetwise with that too. That's where that all came from. So I got it from both ends, from my family and, coming from my family, and then like, again, in the streets and with your friends and stuff like that. And I take that with me I take it to me with the movement. I take it with new friends that I find online. You know, everybody gets a chance. The way I look at it is everybody gets one chance to screw me over. And you know what? Whether it be me lending somebody a few dollars and they don't want to pay you back, you know why? It cost me $20, $30, $100. They're out of my life. They weren't meant to be. You know, or somebody to do something behind my back. You get that one shot. I hope you made it count. That's just, and I take that with me to the movement, and I expect it back, you know, because that's the way I operate. There's no gray areas when you're dealing with Peter McNeil. It's either this way or that way. Right. So that's just, you know, and it's worked for me.
Well, you know what is funny? People have said to me, because I say that too, and people, a lot of times you'll see in relationships too, people will throw out the things they think you're insecure about. Or the buzzwords too, like as men, you know, well, that sounds very abusive or violent, and then sometimes if it's just you call them out or don't agree with them, well, that sounds very threatening. Well, you just sound like a candy apple. Excuse me. Again, Pete is the same way with me. And a lot of times we'll accept bad behavior. Again, it's just an insecurity. We deserve more. It's one of those things too. You get that one shot with me, and if in terms of shadiness, it's about self-respect too. There's no gray area. And when I cut that off, when there's a certain line with me, I can put up with people being bitchy. And I know that certain people can put up with it with me. Believe me, Pete and Jay are on with me, and I've been bitchy at times. We all have. But my point is there's lines. Pete's old school respect, just like I am. I had the advantage of growing up right outside of Boston through when I was born in Nashua to my early teen years, and then moved to the country, like real country, like deep. So it was a nice contrast, quite the culture shock from where I went from. Shout out to my Brook Village crew, BBC in Nashua outside of Boston. But Pete's old school like me, there was, you know, where I grew up too, you didn't whip off, you get your ass kicked. You know, it wasn't like it is now. But people, there's old school respect. If you're going to be a man, again, we all get bitchy. And we all sometimes do things and we get in bad moods, but there's certain points of integrity. I don't hang out with high school girls, and I won't hang out with men that act like high school girls, certainly.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's just, I think we need to get to a point in time where we spend more time building people up rather than tearing people down. And we've come across that so much where the integrity issue comes in, and some of the aspects that we're dealing with where we may tell some people our information, or we may share our information with certain people, and the integrity has to be there in a line of loyalty, that what you tell somebody in confidence is what you tell somebody in confidence. It does not become public knowledge. And what we share, many people don't know this. We have a few different chats. We have a chat where we sit back and we talk about the program and how do we make it better, how do we do certain things, and we share different ideas and thoughts. And okay, well, this came across today, this came across my plate, how do I handle this? And we talk amongst ourselves behind the scenes a lot, and it's every day every day,
all throughout the day and night.
And I think that's because we have built up such a rapport with each other. We can trust each other. You've got to build up some of that more and more and more, and branch out, because and don't just stay within your group. I mean, let's branch out to each other. Let's start trusting each other in this movement, because if you can't trust, and it's just like this, and it's the military in me, is the fact that we used to have battle buddies, and your battle buddy and you sat back to back in a trench hole, and you both had your M16s and you're back to back. So that way, guess what? You don't have to lay your head in the mud when you have to go to sleep. You can count on that person who has your back all the time, that you don't get a bullet in your back. And I think that...
Yeah, Jay. Yeah, go ahead and finish up, and I'm going to go on with that because I know some people have some questions on that. So go ahead, Jay.
Sure. And I think that we have to do that more and more and more. And maybe that's a military style, a military point of view. But I think that sometimes we have to revert to some of the things that have worked in the past. Maybe you've got a battle buddy this week, but it might not be the same battle buddy this week as you had last week. for whatever reason. But honestly, we have to do that more and more and more, build more and more relationships. This is about building relationships with people, building functionality with people that are inside and outside of the movement so that they can trust you that you're a good parent. You're just like them. But you just had to go through the family court system and someone hosed you out of your ability to be a parent. It's not that you were a bad parent. It's that you were hosed and taken away.
Yeah, and people ask, I know, Jay, people are asking out there, okay, Jay, well, how do we know who we can trust, right? I mean, everybody says, oh, you can trust me. Can I tell you a secret? Absolutely, because most people just want the juice to be able to go gossip with other people. How do you know? Well, the first thing is this, Jay, what do we always say, right? Happy people do not cut others down. They only attempt to build them up. This is very true in terms of the people you're dealing with. You'll never see Pete McNeil come to me or be excited about something and give them what I call the yab up people. Well, I know you're excited. Yeah, but, don't get too excited. Good friends will encourage people. It doesn't always mean they'll agree. But again, if someone knows you're excited, we all have these abilities to feel energies, and we know absolutely when people are trying to cut us down. Absolutely. And that's our own insecurities doesn't allow us to address it. Don't allow us to address it because a lot of times it's people we're close to that know our insecurities and know what's going to get to us. And sometimes it's jealousy, which leads them to want to cut us down. They don't sometimes want to see us succeed, even though they do say that. So again, that's how you can initially see it. Other people that you're associating yourself with, this doesn't mean you have to always necessarily cut people off. I say all the time, and I've said to family members, people, what I was saying earlier about the buzzwords, hey, that's very selfish. You're damn right it is. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'm going to be very selfish in that. Maybe you can call it what it is. Yep, absolutely. Shut them down with that. And again, if someone is constantly, we know the energy is always trying to kind of cut you down, keep you down. It's our own insecurities because we don't want to believe certain people that we love would do that. But as I've said to some of my own family members, I have no problem loving you from a distance. It doesn't always have to be that, if someone is doing, say you draw, they talk about boundaries, very definitive boundaries. This is the last time we're going to talk about this. This is what I will and won't accept. And why people don't respect that line you draw, because some people will draw that one when they're feeling good about themselves, and the next day they'll sometimes almost apologize. I'm sorry that or the person will cross that line and they won't. You got to hold that. Here, you're going to be consequence, and here's how. I will not speak to you. Do it again, bang, gone. Mm-hmm. And you stay that positive route, period.
And on Facebook,
don't allow anyone to sway you from that.
Right. That's how. Go ahead, Pete.
No, I just said on Facebook it's so much easier. It's like block.
Yeah.
Back in the day, you couldn't get rid of your friends like that because they live on the same block as you or they live around the corner. You had to see them all the time. Facebook is boop, done deal, it's over.
Well, it's funny too. People, as Jay said too, people will, hey, so and so is saying this and so is saying that. What do you think I should do? I'm like, nothing. What would block them? What good is it? You're going to spend all day going back and forth with someone. I'm just wondering if this person is going to help you get your kids.
Yeah.
If they're not, it makes no sense. Be selfish as hell. There is a healthy level of narcissism. There really is. And be that way. Be selfish in that.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely agree. We're getting down to our very, very sad.
But the depressing part of the show.
Exactly. And I want to mention, obviously, some of the amazing people. I'm just going to say the board of directors. They're doing an amazing job. They're giving us great feedback, and they'll continue to, because we'll consult with them after the show, as we did last week. We'll continue to consult with them. What can we do better? What we always try to make ourselves better. Can we ask something better? Can we do something that's more constructive? How do we approach this?
When you stop growing, you die.
Exactly. So we always try to keep growing, keep getting better as a show. How do we represent the movement better, and different things like that. We always consult the board of the Far From Normal radio show, what we call the FFN board, and we're coming closer to this of our fans, Bud, that we're and I've seen a couple of people who I've consulted with that they seem to like the name, the FFN Asylum. Does that
Yeah,
sound
I saw that. Yeah, well, Jay, you had made me. The first one was Bud's Asylum, and then you put the FFN one. I think I like that one too. I like both of them. People seem to like that one. I wonder what's wrong with our audience. Now, you people are weirdos. What's wrong with you listening to like us and liking things like that? So what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
We love you though. That's why.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe we're a little far from normal. Maybe maybe we're out there so much that we are, some people think we're a little nuts. But at the same time, people thought a lot of conspiracy theorists were nuts about MLK's assassination and murder until that was brought to court, and then the government had to end up paying the family. So you got to look at it that way. Maybe some conspiracy theorists are right when it comes down to the family court system.
Progressives are always looked at sometimes as nuts in the beginning, and then they're looked at as revolutionaries in the end, right, guys?
Yep.
That's absolutely right. So we're getting down here to our final minutes. I want to thank the board of directors. We will consult you right after the show, I promise. And we will be coming out with Far From Normal Radio Show t-shirts to start off the equation. And trust me, they're going to be very, very low cost. We're going to have it so that the company ships you the t-shirt. We don't even mess with the t-shirt or collecting the funds or whatever. That's not what we're about. We want to do something that's a fundraiser, and it will defray the cost of the Zoom broadcast service because we do the webinar and everything else. And so we're going to do it that way. We'll be fully transparent in those funds and how that is completely spent and where we go from that. So we're not going to go and take money and use it and put it in our pockets, even though that's quite tempting. But at the same time, they ain't calling me Money Moss because I'm taking it to the bank.
right. Yeah, so that's exactly. I love that's such a good. Hey, Money Moss. Yo.
Right. So this money is going directly to defray the cost of the Zoom broadcaster, which is what we use. It's a great program. We have had nothing but success, and you've seen now that you can play videos and everything else on it. So, and then we have even more that we haven't even discovered yet. So it will be going in different directions, but we wanted to definitely thank the board, definitely thank everybody who's involved with those organizations that are out there. As you've seen, they are on our video screen. When we did our opening monologue, they are out there for you to view. We'll play it again each and every week because that'll be our opening. So I want to go ahead and give this time here to Mr. Bud Veno for his shout outs.
Yo, and yo for one last final time this Tuesday, February 27, 2018. Wow, that was a quick show. Thank you to our first guest, Joe, and his last name eludes me right now, so I apologize.
Sorge.
I know Jay.
Sorge, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you to our listeners out there. Obviously, thank you to my brother from another. Let's say it like this: Jay, lack of money, Moss, Bud, yo, no dough, Veno, and Pete, the real Brooke McNeil. There you go. But I love you three, and I love Jessie Weiner. I hope you feel better, kid. And to my wife, I love you, Allison. Baby, we got to watch a little movie tonight. I'm going to keep her up a little bit. I get a little excited after the show. She has to unwind me and calm me down. Say, go take a cold shower. To my littlest, bestest buddy, Mason, I love you. Thank you for helping me with a promo video last night. Yo, this is Mason here. And to my biggest, bestest buddy, who has a fencing tournament this week, and I'm so excited, Carter. He's going to kick some butt. He's been practicing hard. I love you, pal. I'll see you tomorrow. Everybody out there, chins up. It's not over till you say it's over. Keep pushing. Never quit. Again, it's not over till you say it's over. Do it. Go get it. Take what's yours. Much love.
Absolutely. And he gets the wolf. All right, Mr. Peter McNeil, your turn, because we're just going to cash out on this. We'll cash out a little shout out there to Jessie Weiner.
Jessie, the dolphin.
Yes. Yeah, just give a shout out to my little man Junior. I'll be seeing you this weekend. I love you, buddy. I miss you, and Daddy's never gonna quit. So equality all the way, baby. So also like to thank all our fans and our guests tonight. I appreciate you guys watching, and I love the support. And I tune in for next week. We'll be here.
And he gets the car.
The Brooklyn went too much traffic.
All right. So I want to definitely thank my FFN fam here, Bud Veno, Peter McNeil, and of course Jessie Weiner at home. I'm sure she's tuning in. I'm not sure if she's lost her voice probably by now. Probably, what are you guys saying? Okay. Anyway. And we'll have Jessie to answer to later. So guys,
right.
I want to thank Mr. Joseph Sorge for coming on. Great guest, great first hour. Want to thank everybody out there for tuning in. Our board of directors, from everybody else out there who's going through this hard, difficult time. You're going to come out on the other side, trust me. And as we say every single week on the Far From Normal radio show, you are important, you are loved, and you are cared about. God bless.
Chins up. Yeah.